Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime here with my next Boruto anime episode review. This one's going to be for episode 49, which is called Wasabi and Namida. Namida, however you want to pronounce it. Yeah, while I don't think this was one of the best episodes in the entire series, I thought it was actually a very enjoyable episode, giving a whole focus episode to Team 15, and actually just, I think, getting to know them all that little bit better through a focus episode. I thought it actually worked quite well. You could tell that there wasn't really a lot of overly a meaningful plot going on, in that they set up Sumire with the idea that she hasn't fully revealed to her team that she was the one who summoned the new, and that her summoning animal is the new. And then you basically just went with the dynamic that they've sort of hinted at before between Namida and Wasabi, that they tend to sort of get on each other's nerves, or Wasabi tends to get annoyed by Namida's kind of crying, and that causes kind of more crying, and it just kind of causes an issue between the two of them. And so they resolved all of them fairly easily without really delving into too much. But there were some fun aspects to this episode, in that, I suppose this was pretty much the first time we really got the idea that, oh, Hanabi is actually their team captain, Team 15's captain. And we got a little bit of, I suppose, a kind of background sort of plot with her, I suppose, presenting some of her, maybe inexperience, that, this is, I think this is her first time being a captain of a team, so she's sort of unsure about how hands-on she should be, or should she let them solve their problems themselves. And Sai was the one to give her some advice here, because he's sort of checking up on Sumire after the whole events of her arc earlier on in the series. And so kind of Hanabi actually has a pretty important role, because she has a sort of a high-profile person on her team in Sumire, and they're sort of watching to see how her powers redevelop now that the new is kind of back to being a kind of baby new, more or less. And I think the episode overall came to a pretty good conclusion. You could sort of tell there wasn't much to it, because their plot was just to capture animals, and they sort of had fun with that Sumire put so much effort into just being part of the team, in the same way that she put a lot of effort into being the class rep. She's doing that once again here. She obviously stayed up all night sewing these kind of human hiding scent suit, animal suits, which allowed them to capture most of the animals. She also prepared lunch for the whole team, and she was the one trying to keep the whole team together. And then, of course, it kind of leads up to the moment where, in the middle of the big fight, she has to use her best technique, so she has to use the new, and has to reveal to them the full scope of this. But it turns out to be a non-issue. They already knew, and they were just kind of waiting for her to just be upfront with them about that this is what actually happened. And so, by the end of the episode, I think it's always going to be the case where Namida and Wasabi will always sort of argue a little bit, because Wasabi is sort of somewhat highly strung about these type of things and tends to react quite quickly, whereas Sumire tends to be more of a kind of a collected character. And then Namida definitely isn't a kind of leader type character. She tends to just do what she tends to just do what she needs to do, and then kind of follow the other two, who are much more of a kind of, I suppose, leader kind of characters. So that'll be fun to see if we get any development on these specific characters, if we see Namida get some confidence as the episodes progress. Sumire, we know she has she more or less has to be considered one of the best of the kind of class of genin, just from the skills she demonstrated within her arc, and the fact that even in this episode, the fact that she's really easily using the water guns, has a good summoning animal, she is, quite skilled. I suppose it's just a matter of, when we really see her get into it, how much water jutsu can she actually do, and so on, and that's going to be where it really kind of stands out, because they've more or less, I think, in Sumire's arc said that she was kind of tuning level almost. It kind of felt like she was that way. So it's interesting, like, are they powering her down now that the new isn't as powerful? Or is this just her normal, I suppose, personality that we know here from this? Does that mean that she's not as aggressive and only tends to use her big jutsu when she needs to? Because obviously she wasn't trying to kill the wolf; she was just trying to, like, you know, hold it off, basically. Um, Other than that, uh, not too much else to say about the episode. You know, we got to see them all use their speciality jutsu. Wasabi, of course, has the kind of cat transformation. They delved into that a little bit more in that she has the different kind of breeds of cat, and they all have their own kind of specific kind of speciality. Like, I think she used like the Persian cat one initially, which had good smell but wasn't very fast. Then she went to the tortoise shell and was faster. I was able to actually outpace the wolf and put some paper bombs on the wolf, which, given that like they didn't really use all that impressive jutsu, it was pretty crazy that they tried to blow the wolf up. Obviously, the paper bombs obviously weren't that powerful and was more meant to just kind of knock it out temporarily. And of course, we got to see what Namida's I can't remember the specific wording on it, but like you know, her crying jutsu basically, and the kind of screams of crying that she does, like a sound based jutsu. I think it's a pretty cool thing to have. It sort of actually, I think, fits in fairly well with like Udon's jutsu being based on like his runny nose, and then she tends to cry a lot, so her jutsu is sort of based on that to a degree. Of course, I kind of would like to see them develop more standard jutsu as well. Thankfully, I think we did see like Namida throw some kunai, even though she was still holding onto the monkey at the time. And then we just get a nice moment at the end where they all kind of like, they're all, you know, friends again, and there's no real issues between the team. Hanabi comes down, and it's this moment of like, she did exactly, I think, what she was meant to do as the team captain. She felt that they could handle this mission, but was there in case anything went wrong, and she didn't feel like she needed to act, and is proud of the team and how impressive they actually were. So they're obviously building towards the tuning exam kind of setup. That's what the setup for next episode seems to be. That we're gonna get the meeting of the different captains discussing, like, I suppose, of their teams, which ones they feel are ready, which ones they have doubts over, and that will be very interesting to see if anyone actually is left out. And when we get to the point of like the Boruto movie, where we know, okay, Boruto's team goes in, the Inoshika Cho team goes in, but with the other two, I think we know Metal Lee is in the tournament, which more or less I assume would have to mean that the other two are in it as well. But like Sumere's team, we don't actually know if they really participate or not. So I assume they will, and we'll get a more expanded arc of seeing the full progress of the kind of Leaf Village Genin throughout the tournament. Because in the movie, of course, they made the exams like fairly quick, in that like the first one was just a question and immediately eliminated half of the candidates. The second one, they just very quickly went through like the capture the flag kind of tournament. I assume we'll get expansion on some of that, seeing more of the matches and so on. But we'll have to wait and see, of course. But this was a necessary episode. I think we needed this to get a better idea of this specific team. It doesn't look like we're going to get any insight into some of the other teams that kind of have the more kind of not really named characters, which is a bit disappointing. Maybe there'll be space after the next episode for that, but it seems like we have our four kind of focus teams, and that's really about it. Which I understand. It's sort of frustrating that we're not going to get to know those characters all that well, but we still have four interesting teams, and two of them, of course, we don't know as well as kind of the others. That being Udon's team and Hanabi's team as well. So yeah, I'm interested to see how exactly the series progresses from here, because obviously next episode is episode 50, so it's a sort of landmark episode in a way, and it's the episode that seems to set up the tuning exams. And the movie sort of starts off with the tuning exams in a way, so it feels like we're like right at the movie now, more or less. I assume they'll probably do it in such a way where like, okay, the tuning exams are in a few weeks, let's make our decisions now. and then there'll be time for maybe a couple of episodes before we finally actually go into the tuning exam arc, which is the Boruto movie stuff. Yeah, as I've been saying for like pretty much the whole run of the show, I am intrigued to see just how much of a focus they give the movie plot, and if they try to expand it out and really, really change it, how much of the slight changes from the manga did they bring in, or do they just do it kind of completely new themselves? Because once we're into this movie arc, we're getting into, I suppose, towards the end, the Otsutsuki stuff, and the setup of like Boruto's special powers coming back, and so on. Like Sasuke is going to have to be, I suppose, introduced, I suppose, into the series again, and that sort of stuff. So there seems to be some big stuff coming up. I could probably there probably is a listing of like what the next like 1 or 2 episodes are about. I haven't looked at that yet. I just know from the preview that next episode is going to be about the meeting to decide who does the tuning exams. But final thoughts on this episode. As I said at the start, good but not the most amazing episode. But because it focused on characters who hadn't got a lot of attention in a while in Sumire, and then we don't really know all that well in Namida and Wasabi, it actually made for an intriguing episode, even if it wasn't the greatest one we've seen up to now. So I think worthwhile, not the worst episode we've seen, not the best, just kind of somewhere in the middle, but I enjoyed it, which is the case with I think a lot of these Boruto episodes. I don't think we've really had any just out and out bad episodes. There's been maybe 1 or 2 where it's just been like, yeah, that wasn't the best, but they've still all been okay. Yeah, that's my review for episode 49 of Boruto. In the comments, let me know what your thoughts were on the episode. Yeah, that's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.